Welcome in, I'm Artress, and in this video we're going to be going over Red Purple Kid, a leader that really hasn't gotten too much love, but over the past couple of sets has gotten a couple of pieces of support that really make it a deck worth playing. Before we go into the deck list and how the deck operates, please make sure to drop a like and a sub. It helps out the channel immensely. I cannot thank you enough for the support. Additionally, if you'd like to talk about the One Piece card game outside of the YouTube comments, make sure to join the Discord. The link for that is in the description below. So Red Purple Kid came out quite a while back with Starter Deck 10. It came out with the Red Purple Luffy and Red Purple Law. Now, as you're familiar, those two leaders are vastly more popular than this one, but this leader says your turn. If you have 4 or more life, this leader has power minus 1000, and then when attacking Dawn minus 1, this leader gains 2000 power for the turn. There's a couple different things here. One, it is a dual color leader that can attack with 5 life. I think that's the only leader that can do that, by the way, which is really powerful because most dual colored leaders that can attack are only 4 life, and then on top of that, the ones that can't attack that are dual leader are 5 life, so that's also a little stipulation there. The other thing that's really interesting here is this leader gets a natural buff by just minusing Dawn pretty easily, and there's a few cards that have come out since the release of this leader that really help drive that game plan forward by minusing Dawn, but you're not really losing anything in the process. But let's go ahead and go over this deck list and talk about some of the additions over time that have been added to this leader to make it what I feel like is a very strong leader overall. Almost probably like an A tier leader that may be a little bit undiscovered overall. I don't know, maybe that's a little bit of a cope on my end, but I do think that this leader is very strong regardless. So starting off, I am running 4 of the Dragon from OP07, an 8 cost to 9000 power body, great stat line, but it has rush, and then it says on play, give your leader or up to one of your characters up to 2 rested Dawn. So this will help pump up a character or your leader by an additional 2000 power, basically. And this is a really great play on your 8 Dawn turn, of course. You have this. You also have a couple of other like 7 cost plays, but I think that this is the most powerful play you can make on your 8 Dawn turn. Then I'm running 2 of the new 10 cost Shanks from OP09, another rush unit that says all of your opponent's characters have minus 1000 power. Just a very strong bomb to be able to play down on 10. I found that this deck, when I was playing it, didn't have a lot of top end at first. I was only running like a couple of, like, I think, Gold D Roger, and so I added a couple of Shanks in to help like make a little bit more of a late game threat presence with some other bodies other than just having the leader be the late game threat. And Shanks really does that. You could run it 4. I've seen people run more Shanks here, but for me, I felt like 2 was a good spot. Then I'm running 4 of the 7 cost Ben Beckman from OP09. This is just a great stat line. 7 cost, 7000 power, trash, not KO, trash a unit that is 6000 power or less. I can't ask for more from a 7 cost unit. This is really strong overall, and so because of that, I'm running it at 4. Although it's not searchable, it does have a 1k counter, which is also very important. We have another 7 cost unit that we'll get to later that I think is very powerful for this deck. However, it doesn't have a 1k counter and it is searchable, so I guess there's like a couple of trade-offs there, but Ben Beckman is probably one of my favorite 7 drops, at least in red in the game. Then I'm running 4 of the 4 cost 4000 power Wire. This is a Dawn ×1. If your leader has 7000 power or higher and is the Kid Pirates type, this character gains rush. You can use this for that effect. Mostly it's a searchable 2k counter, and that's the reason why I have it at 4. Then I'm running 2 Gold D Roger. This is what I was talking about with the top end, why I added a couple more Shanks in. I was only running 2 Gold D Roger. It was like 10 drops, and so everything before that was very small in unit size, at least like Dragon is 8 cost, but I suppose that was like the only other top end I had, and so Gold D Roger, though, is very important for this because you are playing as aggressive as possible. And so having a body that says rush, and then when your opponent activates blocker, if you or your opponent have 0 life, you win the game. There's often times where you're pushing your opponent down very, very low, and they can be at 0 in the game. You throw down the Gold D Roger, and then they just can't block it all, and you win the game from there. So Gold D Roger is very important for that game plan because you are trying to be aggressive and just go for life as much as possible. Next, I'm running Killer. This is a 1 cost search event from OP05 that says on play, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, reveal up to 1 Kid Pirate type card other than Killer and add it to your hand. Return the rest to the bottom of your deck in any order. This is a great card to be able to search out some of the pieces I've talked about. I think overall you have close to maybe like 18, maybe 17, 19, somewhere in there, units to be able to search out. It doesn't search out other killers, which is a problem, of course, because one of your big combo pieces for this deck is the 5 cost killer, but it can't grab it. So that is a downside, but it can grab quite a few other things, like the Wire that I just talked about. It can grab this next Eustace Captain Kidd blocker, which I think is one of the more important cards in the early to mid game for you to be able to find. This is a 5-cost, 6,000 power body blocker, and it says your turn. Once per turn, when a Dawn card from your field is returned to your Dawn deck, add 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck as active. And so this really synergizes very well with your leader ability, because you can use your leader ability as soon as 5 with this card on the field and not have to worry about minusing Dawn every turn, because the natural order of things is you gain 2 Dawn per turn, and if you're using your leader ability, you're minusing Dawn, so you're only gaining 1 Dawn per turn if that's the case. This Kidd blocker mitigates that, and so you're able to use your leader ability because of that. So very important card for the deck overall. Then I'm running 4 Kamazo. This is a 2K counter from OP06 that says your turn. Once per turn, when you return Dawn on your field to your Dawn deck, KO up 20 of your opponent's characters of cost 2 or less. Very important versus like aggro decks. Very important against decks like Nami, especially if they are throwing out a lot of characters that cannot really be interacted with. This is the one piece that you have that can, I said one piece, that you can use to be able to KO those units. And so I think 4 of is very important here. Of course, it's also searchable by killer because it is a Kid Pirates type character. And it's another 2K, so very important overall. For the 3-cost spot, which I find probably more important than Kid, at least to start the game off, if you can find this card in your opening hand, you have quite an advantage. This is a 3-cost, 4,000 power Pudding from OP08. Says your turn. Once per turn, when your Dawn is returned to your Dawn deck, set up to 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck onto your field as rested. So almost the same effect as the 5-cost blocker Kid. However, the Dawn doesn't come in as standing. However, on 3, if you play this down, you can start using your leader ability immediately. And then if you have Kid the following turn on 5, and you have both of these on the field, then you're gaining Dawn when you use your leader ability. So I feel like that's very synergistic, very important for what you're supposed to be doing with this deck. Pudding, I feel like, is a must at 3. I see people just excluding this card altogether for a new card from OP09, which I do also think is a good card. However, this has a counter on it, and the card we're going to get to in a second doesn't. So because of that, I'm running this as a playset over the other one, which we'll get to in a second. Then I'm running 4 of the new Killer from OP09. This is a very important combo piece for if you're trying to get lethal out of nowhere. It says on play, Dawn -1, choose 1 leader with Kid Pirates type and activate it. So basically, you swing in with your Eustace Kidd leader, you minus Dawn, so then you gain the plus 2,000. You play this Killer down, you minus another Dawn, restand the Kid, swing again with your leader, and you can minus your leader ability again to gain another 1,000 power. This isn't once per turn, it just says when attacking. So if you can attack twice in a turn with this Killer, then you can use your when attacking Dawn -1 twice in the turn, which is very nice. People might not expect the extra boost of power coming at them, and this Killer is definitely a great addition from OP09 for the deck. Another new addition from OP09 that I was just talking about that I've seen some people run as a playset of is the 3-cost, 5,000 power Captain Kidd. It's on play, add the top card of your life to your hand. If your leader has Kid Pirates type, add 1 Dawn card from your Dawn deck as active. So this will allow you to get closer to that 3 life threshold where your leader power is no longer negated by 1,000 power. And so this Kid will also activate a Dawn for you, so you can play this down and then ramp up a little bit. The only thing that I don't like about this card, and the reason why I'm not running it at a 4 of, is because of the fact it doesn't have any counter, and I would find myself late game finding this card in my hand somehow, and it was just annoying because I didn't have any use for it at that point in the game. It's a great card early game to find. That's like really, for me, the only time I really want to find this card. In other matchups, maybe if somebody's trying to starve you out, like against, once again, Nami, then you can use this card to take a life and draw a card, obviously, and then ramp. So that's important. But because of the fact it doesn't have a counter and because it's kind of like useless late, I didn't really want to run this at 4 of. Maybe you want to. Maybe you don't find Pudding as useful as I do. But because I do think this is a useful card for the deck, we're running it at 2 of. So we're running basically 6 cards in the 3-cost spot that help you kind of ramp up a little bit earlier. And then to touch on the other 7-cost character that I was talking about earlier when I was mentioning Ben Beckman, this is Eustace Captain Kidd. 7-cost, 8,000 power on play when attacking, Dawn -1. Up to 1 of your leader gains 1,000 power until the start of your next turn. So this is great because it has the on-play effect, but if you're going against somebody like Blackbeard and they take away the on-play effect, you still have the when attacking effect the following turn with this. And for instance, if you're going against Blackbeard, This card is very hard for them to take care of, or at least harder to take care of. 7 costs are not necessarily as easy for them. They have to have a specific piece or combo piece to be able to get rid of this card overall. But the important thing here is that it is searchable by the killer, the 1-cost killer searcher, and it helps your leader stay relatively tanky the next turn because you're getting that power boost for an entire turn cycle. And so between this and the Ben Beckman, I couldn't really decide which I liked more. There's some times where I would have like 2 or 3 of these on the field and I would minus my Dawn too much and it didn't have ways to like really ramp back up efficiently because either my pudding or my kid were taken care of by an opponent's effect or they just like swung into it if I swung with it. And so because of that, I did bump this down from 4 to 3 and I bumped the Ben Beckman from 3 to 4. These can be probably interchanged a little bit more, or maybe the ratios can be messed with a little bit more here, but I, in my testing, have found that these are pretty useful as 3 and 4 overall, especially if you can search this one out. You don't need 4 overall because you can find it if you do find the killer. Then I'm running a playset of Uso Hachi from Starter Deck 18. It really doesn't have anything to do with this deck other than the fact it's one of the most powerful 2Ks in purple. Just being able to rest a 5-cost unit if you're at 8 Dawn or more will take care of most blockers in the game. I think the only blockers that this doesn't really rest would be like Douglas Bullet, maybe the 7-cost Green Kid, obviously 10-cost Teach. You have Basil Hawkins. There's like a handful. The point being, this card answers most blockers in the game, especially if you're going for lethal. So if you can get this card in your hand and you can get this killer in your hand, you're already setting yourself up to be able to get that surprise lethal out of nowhere. Because I'm running a fair amount of bricks in this deck, I am running a couple of Gatlings. This is a 0-cost event from purple, and the important thing here is that it also has a trigger that's relevant to the leader because you can add up to 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck and set it as active, so it is a trigger in life that will be able to ramp you up. Otherwise, you can pitch dead cards in hand where need be and be able to guard out effectively because it is a plus 3,000 power counter. And then finally, I'm running 2 Punk Rotten. This is the main piece for your combo going on. It is a 2-cost main event that says Dawn -1. Choose up to one of your leader or characters with the Kid Pirates attribute and give them 5,000 power. It's insane. Plus 5,000 power. The trigger is not really super relevant because you're going to want to hold on to this if you get it, but it does say add up to 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck and set it as active. The ultimate combo here, though, is if you have the Uso Hachi, the Punk Rotten, and Killer. If you're trying to go for lethal and your opponent has a blocker up, maybe at like 1 life left, you can go Uso Hachi, rest the blocker, go Punk Rotten, -1, give your leader plus 5,000 power, then swing in, use your leader ability to give your leader plus an additional 2,000 power. So you're looking at 12,000 power with the blocker rested, then restand it with this killer, another -Dawn, and then swing again, another -Dawn, and give your leader another plus 2,000 power, swinging for 14. So you go 12 and then 14. Very, very potent combo. Can come out of nowhere. People might not expect it, but you can see these pieces quite often. And of course, it all revolves around Punk Rotten. I would probably, if you're going to build this route, maybe increase Punk Rotten a little bit more. However, it is a dead card otherwise, so I would suggest just running it at 2. And if you get the 1 copy of it, great, hold on to it. Otherwise, you can search this out with the killer searcher, so keep that in mind as well. But overall, I feel like this deck has a lot of potential. There are some cards that I didn't include in the deck because I wanted to try a couple of other different variations. And so one card that I have seen quite a lot of in this deck would be the Kid and Killer from EBO1. And I think that it's a great addition, of course, because it adds a lot more aggression to the deck because it is a 4-cost. You're able to play it out in the mid game. You can play it out late game. And it also gets a nice little buff the later the game goes on. So this card is basically just going to have that rush unit activated on it, and then when attacking, if your opponent has 2 or less life cards, this character gains plus 2,000 power until the end of your turn. Of course, with this deck, you are trying to rush your opponent down or beat them down as fast as possible. And this card is great in the deck. Don't get me wrong, I wanted to put this in, but I think that I wanted to try Ben Beckman instead because it has counter. I was already running a fair amount of non-counter cards in the deck, and that can be a little bit dangerous depending on how you're playing. But I would suggest, trying it out with Kid and Killer in some other spot because it does, I think, have a spot in the deck overall. I mean, it does have the flavor. You have Kid and Killer. It's the Kid Pirates. It makes sense to put it in the deck overall. Maybe it's a little bit of a flavor fail for me not putting it in this specific deck list. But overall, let's take this deck list, though, and see how it does in the sim. All right, going against Bonney. I just want to take first here. This hand is okay because of the fact that I do have the Kid and the Beckman, but there is a chance we get something better, so that's why I'm mulliganing here. We get the Killer, and we can get the Punk Rotten, of course, so at least we have that combo piece, but maybe looking in hindsight that the hand I had to start off with was probably better with the Kid and then the Beckman on curve being able to answer probably their not their Beckman, their, why am I forgetting his name? Cavendish. Yeah, being able to answer that's very important in this matchup, but I digress. Let's swing really big, go 7, they take it. I feel like they might have blocked with the Rosinante, but of course, maybe Bonney doesn't really feel like they're in that much of a threat. They want to just establish some blockers so that maybe they can throw down the 8-cost Kid. And I feel like that is probably going to be a very hard thing for us to get over, especially if they have a Rosinante on the field. We don't really have any way to minus the opponent's characters and swing into it efficiently. We just have to overpower. So let's just try to beat them down before that happens. So this is actually a pretty good thing for us to get here is this pudding. So let's go ahead and get the pudding down. They're probably going to rest it, but that's okay because if we do get it rested, then that means we can swing our Killer into their Bonney. We're just going to swing 7 face. Of course, they do swing, or I guess they rest the pudding here. That's fine. I actually would prefer that because now I can swing and get their Bonney hopefully off the field. They might be thinking about protecting this either with the block or a 2 and a 1. But I don't think that's the right move. I think just letting this go is probably the best bet for them. And then the following turn, what they can end up doing is they can swing into my pudding. I'll let it go. It's fine. It's not the end of the world here. If they decide to play out Cavendish this turn, because they are on 6, they could go. They could play Cavendish. They could play any blocker that they would like at this point. But I feel like Cavendish is their best response. And if they do, I'll be able to answer it with my Beckman. So that's very nice, of course. And I think that the order of operations might be a little bit awkward here if they do play out Cavendish, because for me, I would have to play out Beckman and then swing to get my leader ability off because I'm only at 4 life. But they go with the Carrot instead. So Carrot's also a nice target for us to be able to get rid of, and that means that we can also still use the pudding effect this turn, so very good on our part. Unfortunate that they, probably didn't realize that, or maybe they don't care. I don't know. We do get to at least use our leader ability for free, and that means our next turn that we will have a very strong turn going into the dragon play. Of course, we have to sequence it correctly because they will likely rest one thing. Probably our leader, so we'll probably swing with Beckman first and then swing really big with the dragon, just so that they don't rest the dragon down. This turn, I would imagine they're probably just going to swing into the pudding. Okay, now Cavendish comes down. Unfortunate, it wasn't the turn before, and now they're really blockering up, so to be honest, I'm a little bit worried here because this could signify that there is an 8-cost Captain Kidd in our future, which it feels weird being scared of the Kid as a Kid leader, but it is a very strong card, especially against us. So let's swing 8. They're going to rest our leader, of course, and then we're going to play down the dragon, putting the Tudon on the dragon, and swing in for 11. They might block this one. If they don't block this one, this might mean that they do have the Kid, and they're just trying to get as many cards in their hand as possible, and then hide behind these 2 blockers here. So that could be a route that they take. Just depends. They are also on Tendon. Yeah, it looks like they're on Tendon. Is that right? 3, 6. Yeah. So they could play a 10-cost Doflamingo. Instead, they play Hody Jones. I wonder if this is their only option here. That is rather unfortunate because if that's the case, I feel really, really strong into this next turn because we have a couple of ways to rest blockers if we want to. We have the Punk Rotten ready to go. Oh, and we just drew into the Gold D Roger. So I feel like at this point, it's probably game over for them with the 2 blockers up. We just throw down the Roger and then, do our best here. They're going to go after the board, which I think is the right choice overall. We're going to go ahead and counter out of this one with the 2Ks that don't rest the blockers. And then if they decide to go after or Beckman again, I think we protect it because now they can't rest anything. And that means that we can freely play down this Goldie Roger, swing in, use our leader ability, swing in for 7, swing in 7 with Beckman, swing in 9 with Dragon, and then 13 with Goldie Roger. Along the way, they're probably not going to be able to counter out of everything, especially by the time we get to the Dragon swing, because this means they have 2 cards out of hand with this swing, 2 cards out of the Beckman, and that puts them down to 4 cards left in their hand, and then 3 would have to be designated to counter out of the dragon attack, and then that means that they can't counter out of the Goldie Roger attack overall. So they're able to counter out of these here, and yeah, this would mean that they have to give me 3 cards for this 9k attack. I don't think they're going to be able to do it. Yeah, it looks like they didn't have exactly what they were looking for. They had the Basil Hawkins. Maybe they drew into that off of life, but I feel like Shanks wouldn't have really answered too much either. Yeah, I feel like Cody Jones might have been the only play they could have made, but unfortunate for them, we also had the Goldie Roger, so yeah. All right, against Purple Yellow Croc, we're going to take first easy. We want to be able to be as aggressive as possible against this deck. Playing down the pudding and then hoping to draw into maybe some mid-game piece would be very nice, but at least the pudding here is very good. Hopefully we don't have any triggers from their life that will get rid of the pudding. On 5, I imagine they might play Gadatsu. But here, yeah, it's kind of awkward. We don't have anything to play this turn. We could play the Kamazo, but I really don't feel like I want to play this down. Just hold it in my hand. So I feel like we would just swing 7-7, and that might be okay enough. We can just be very aggressive here. Or actually, it would be 7-8, because with the leader ability +2 plus the extra 2, yeah, 7-8 here, being aggressive as possible. Maybe they use their Miss Wednesday to block. No, they just go to 1. They're comfortable going to 1, I suppose. And with Purple Yellow Croc, we have to like race them down, because as soon as they get to their 8 Dawn turn, they can start healing up pretty quickly, or at least consecutively per turn. Oof. The 6-cost Lin, I will just go ahead and trash my life because I am not giving them cards out of hand. This turn, I'm going to just play down my 7-cost Kid, buff my leader by 1,000, and then swing in. And the reason I'm playing this down instead of like maybe a Beckman is because the Beckman has counter on it. The Beckman only really answers the Miss Wednesday, and at least this is a little bit more defensive on my end, and it's a good unit overall. The only way they can really answer this is if they have a Katakuri, the 8-cost Katakuri, and if they're healing me, I feel like I'm not getting punished for their Lin decision if that's the case. We'll go ahead and take this. If they want to swing another 7, we'll give them a 2. And I suppose that this is going to be a Katakuri or a Croc. It is the Katakuri, putting the 7-cost Kid into life. And we'll just follow up with a 8-cost Dragon. And we're going to go ahead and swing 9, and we'll swing another 9 after that. So we're going to be as aggressive as possible here. Just swing 2 face. See if they take these hits. They can easily block this next one if that's the case. So we're just trying to get this blocker out of the way. Yep, and they do. One thing we have to keep in mind against Purple Yellow Croc is that they do unfortunately have this counter event called Okama Way, which directs a attack into a body. Yeah, I was trying to like think of the right words there. It's the one that basically is a 1-cost event that if you're attacking, they can redirect that attack to wherever they want to another character on the field. So if we're going to try to go for lethal, we have to keep that in mind, that our lethal might not actually go through because they can redirect the attack. So we take those 2 hits. I don't feel like I want to go down to 0 here, so I'm going to go ahead and counter out with 2 1Ks. I don't have any 2Ks, unfortunately, but we should be okay. Oh, a Katakuri to put the dragon back into life, which it feels like this is the Okama Way for sure, but we'll see if this is the right thing for us to do. We'll go ahead and swing 9 first, see what they do here. They might have 2 Okama Ways because with their leader ability, allowing them to restand 1 Dawn if they use it defensively, they might have 2 Okama Ways and then stop an attack, or stop 2 attacks that way, which I guess that's fine. So yeah, they redirected it to their Lin, KO'd the Lin, and we're going to swing in 10 and see if they can counter out of this one or redirect it to the Katakuri. They just didn't have enough. Maybe they were bluffing there. So yeah, you just have to play very aggressive against Purple Yellow because the longer the game goes on, the more chance that they have to stay in it and then just pull ahead. So aggro, aggro, aggro. Good old Vegapunk. I feel like Vegapunk is in a really interesting spot in this meta because obviously Doflamingo is very powerful, and this is a great answer to Doflamingo. And the fact that this leader can be a very aggressive leader, but also can turtle up when needed. That versatility is really interesting to see. I've seen a lot of people play it more aggressive, which is scary to be quite honest. Putting out a lot of bodies early on and overwhelming the board every turn is something I can't really deal with. I just have to try to swing face and be aggressive as possible. And maybe if they decide to be like really aggressive on their end, then we try to be more of the control deck, if that makes sense. So let's see what they do here. Of course, I was expecting some way to get rid of this pudding on their end, so they go ahead and play down the Nami. Unfortunate, but we have a pudding for backup here. Hopefully they swing in with their Shaka, and then we will swing into it, if that's the case. But I don't know. Maybe we'll see what they do. They don't always want to play, or I guess I've not seen too many Vegapunks swing with Shakas this early in the game. So we'll see. We'll go ahead and swing 8, use our leader ability, of course, and see what they do here. They might not want to go down to 1 so early, so yeah, I guess blocking with Shaka was fine. Although, to be fair, they could have taken that and probably have been okay as well. They're getting low in hand size, so this Bonney that they played this previous turn is a really good card to have out because they can just put a Dawn underneath it and then start gaining some hand size. Another Nami, unfortunate for us that the pudding goes down, but we also have one more pudding ready to go. Unfortunately, I'm going to take this one because I don't want to give them the pudding to be able to not have it play the next turn, and so they will be able to draw 2, trash 1 with the Bonney effect. And then they're probably going to swing 6 with the Nami, and because I'm not really finding any of my pieces right now, I'm going to go ahead and take this one, which is probably a little bit of a risk, but it is what it is. Let's go ahead and get the killer search out to see what we can get going. We have a Eustace Captain Kid for the following turn. And then this turn's really awkward because we don't really have too much more to do. So we're just going to swing really heavy into the Bonney so that they stop getting card advantage. It's really unfortunate, but it is what it is. We have to kind of mitigate the damage coming our way from their board because they are starting to build up a big advantage, at least from the board state here. And then the next turn, we'll be able to play out the 7-cost Kid, and then use that ability to buff our leader up a little bit and hopefully mitigate some of the damage coming our way. Of course, though, with Vegapunk only paying 1 Dawn to either heal or put a character out onto the field, they have a lot more Dawn to play with to be able to swing in, so they will be able to at least swing 6s into me pretty easily at the cost of, 1 per their character, so it's not too much of a tax, but it could be enough where they don't play something that they might have played instead. So you never know. You never know here. But this next turn, yeah, if they just start swinging 5s, I still need to see something here. And so I'm going to go ahead and take that first one, counter out of the second one. And then this is an easy counter out because we have enough 2Ks to go around here. So we'll stay at 2 and see what happens. This Lin, so unfortunate, but we're going to trash the life. We're going to trash the life because I don't want to give them cards out of hand. And we are in a very dangerous spot, of course, but I feel like we might be able to pull this out. I don't know. We'll see. Let's go ahead and minus Dawn with the Captain Kid. We'll swing 6 with the pudding into, I don't know, Lilith is fine. They probably don't care much about Lilith overall. Let's swing 6, or rather 8 with our leader ability into the Nami. They let it go here. And now they have 3 big attacks that they can potentially do to try to get through to win the game here. It's not looking too good. It's not looking too good, but we'll see what we can do. Hopefully we can survive. I want to be able to play the Shanks down, but to be quite honest, I don't feel too comfortable with it. The fact that I only have 2Ks and then I have the 1 killer for 1K. Depends on how they swing. We might have to just counter out of some stuff. We'll give them 2 2Ks here. Yikes. Yikes. We're in a really rough spot right now. This 6-cost Linlin's actually really good against us. We will go ahead and do the 0-cost event, giving them the Shanks. Unfortunate, because we won't be able to play the Shanks this next turn. We are holding onto the Usohachi and the Killer. And if they decide to swing pretty big, a 9, I mean, I guess it goes through, right? They go 8. We could counter out of this one, but to be honest, no. We will go ahead and just take that and then go down to 0. This is really scary. We might have to just try to go for lethal this next turn. We could also go for board, depending on what their board looks like. Okay. So they put the Luffy in life to heal. I feel like that might be signifying for us to just go ahead and push lethal here. We'll throw down a blocker. We'll rest out their blocker with the Usohachi. We have 2 cards in hand, but that's okay because now we can really pressure them pretty hard. We will be able to get rid of at least 2 bodies on the board. Maybe all 3 if we're lucky here. So we'll go 6 into 8 and 6. They will probably not be able to take this one because they have 1 card in hand. Math. And then if they have the 2K, this would be a good time to use it, but they don't have the 2K, it seems. So they let go of their entire board. And this next turn, we should be able to clear their life and just pressure them either down to 0 or actually just go for lethal. So yeah, I feel like that turn was very sketchy, but we probably would have been okay for the most part, unless of course that last card in hand could have been a Nami for them. So I don't know, it's kind of risky to do that, but we also couldn't have, I don't think, pushed for lethal that turn either. Maybe, it depends. But I feel like this next turn is a lot more safe. The fact that Vegapunk just can't attack us this turn is the most important thing though, because they have to establish characters on the board again with only 2 cards in hand. They don't have Kid. Oh my gosh. If they had a 2K this previous turn, that would have been insane. Because then they would have been able to survive. Actually, they wouldn't have been able to use the Nami effect. What am I thinking? That's okay. We'll go 5 into 5. Let's see if they take it. They'll go ahead and use probably the Luffy trigger on the Usohachi just to prevent that attack. And that's okay. They have 1 card in hand. We'll go ahead and swing 7 with the Kid blocker. We can swing 8 here. Oh, they're bringing out the Shaka. Okay, so that's good for us. I was purposely leaving that amount of Dawn up because I wanted to be able to play the Usohachi if they had a blocker in life, which they had the Please Save Me, which brought out the blocker. And then we'll go ahead and swing 8 into lead, and then we can restand it and swing 10 if they do counter out. That was a close one. Very, very close one. We played it more of the control variant because their aggro was a little bit more aggressive than us. All right, going against Shanks here, we're going to take first yet again, and we're going to mulligan the hand because I do want to get a 3-cost pudding, and we got 2 of them, so I can't complain there. This matchup is going to be mostly just me swinging face the entire time. If there's any reason to swing a body, it might be because I have a huge body to swing into one of their threatening bodies, but otherwise, I think that this turn is actually probably better to just go 6 instead of the pudding because they're signifying that they have a Red Hawk with the 2 up. So we'll go ahead and swing 6 and then play the killer out to see what we can get in future turns. The only thing we can take here is the Kamazo because we can't grab killer with killer. Quite unfortunate, of course, how that works out, but it is what it is. And hopefully this next turn, they allow us to play down our pudding because I wanted to play the pudding the previous turn, but they did have the 2 up, so I just needed to respect the Red Hawk there. This next turn, we'll play out the pudding. And then we will go ahead and swing pretty big with the leader ability being able to swing 8, which is very nice for us because swinging 8 is very unfortunate for them. For Shanks, typically you're going to want to swing 6s. Anything above 6s, like a 7's, even not that great because they can just use their leader ability and give you a 2K. But a 6 is always very annoying because the 6 means that they have to give you a card. But if you're swinging 8, that means they have to give you 2 cards. So 8's a really good number against Shanks as well. So this pudding really helps us get there, which is very nice. In the following turn, we'll be at 7. So if they play anything down for, I don't know, 5, which most of the stuff they have is 5, then we can just play this Ben Beckman on top of it. So the Ben Beckman's even better because we get to trash the Lucky Roo, but they do have the 2 Dawn up, which makes me think that they have Red Hawk. The Red Hawk here would be unfortunate to kill our pudding, but it is what it is. Yeah, as I thought. As so foretold. And then this next turn, what we can end up doing is, depending on what they play out, we'll be able to play our dragon this next turn, and I feel like that's probably our best play. So yeah, we'll see what they do here. They do have a dragon of their own, which is very unfortunate because, well, we're taking 2 hits. We're going down to 2, and that's very scary against Shanks because if they're going into their 10 Dawn turn this next turn, then that means they probably have a rush Shanks of their own to be able to throw down. Them using their leader ability right there is actually really good for us because that means we can actually very safely swing into lead, see what they do here. If they counter out, which they might, then we can use the dragon to swing into the dragon. So we'll go 12 into 9, and they'll probably let this one go. What I'm afraid of is a 10-cost rush Shanks this turn, which, yeah, looks like this might be the case. Go ahead and give them the pudding, and if they have the rush Shanks, they'll probably swing it at face. They do. Unlucky, but I think this means that we kind of have to race them, unfortunately. We'll go ahead and just swing 6 into 5. They'll probably use leader ability and give us a 1K, which means we're free to swing 8, 7, and a 12. Probably could have sequenced it differently here, but oh well. It is what it is. A 7 is 2 cards for them, which hopefully they just let this go. Please just take this hit. Okay, that's good for us, and then we'll take the 11 here. That puts them at 0, and that means they have to go for game this turn. Very scary, because do I have the counter? I don't know. We'll figure it out as we go along. 12, a big 12. Now, they could swing 14, and if they swing 14, I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. I just have to get one counter from this life. Let's take it. Oh, never punished. Never punished. So here they go with the 14. Yeah, big old 14. We have 15 exactly to get out of this one. Yeah, I mean, it could have been bad. We could have gotten a non-counter there, but I always feel like it's worth taking the risk there. If not for anything, it's just fun. It's just fun. I don't know. Maybe I'm sick like that. All right, into Nami. This is actually a matchup I really am interested to try out. We do have the Kamazo, which is really important for this matchup, I believe. Being able to KO their units when we are using our leader ability is very important because there's not really a way for us to answer if they have like a Nami, the one-cost Nami that searches out the top 5 for an event. We can't really answer that. So if we have the Kamazo, we are able to get that off the field pretty easily. But this hand's really great because we have the pudding, we have the Kamazo, we have the kid, we have a couple of different plays that we can make on curve depending on what they do. They do play the Boodle down to begin with, which just trashes a card on KO. So that's fine. We expected that because they were tapped out. They didn't want to take any life. They're playing Glorioso, which I feel like some Nami lists have kind of gotten rid of this card in their deck. I do see some people run this, but I feel like a lot of the Nami list in 09 have started to kind of fade this one out. I think it's fine to go ahead and play out this kid this turn so that we can go ahead and ramp up really hard. We'll go 6, ramp up 1. I don't think it's worth swinging with the pudding for 5, especially if they have 3 Dawn up. I think this 6, even this 6 is kind of like sketchy. I usually want to swing 7s against Nami for the most part. I think that's just me. I played a Nell for the longest time, and so it didn't really matter what you swung against Nami, you always lost anyway. So this is the one cost Nami I was talking about. They pitched 2 of them down for the Kaya. So let's go ahead and play out this kid so we kind of unclog ourselves and then be able to play out the Kamazo. But before we swing in with our blocker, let's go ahead and use our leader ability so we can KO this Kaya so that they don't use Snake Dance to bounce it back to hand. If they have it, which they might. That's very important to be able to sequence that correctly so that they don't use that against us. So the 7, they did have the Snake Dance. Really good here. So we'll swing 7 again. And we might swing 5 depending on what they do here for counter. It just depends overall. They go Gavel. I don't think it's worth swinging the pudding here because if they do have like a white snake, then it's a free draw for them. So let's not give them that free draw. This turn, they'll swing 6 at me. I'll just take this one. I don't care if they are able to mill out 1 card. I'm okay going down to 3, which means that my leader ability can now at least be 1,000 power stronger. So we're going to just swing a bunch of 7s here, see what they do. 7 with this 3 cost. We'll swing 7 with the blocker. Actually, now that they countered out like that, we can swing 5. Because this means they only have 1 card left in hand. Let's see what they do. It is a white snake, which means we can actually just swing very flat across because that will only mean that they're countering out with like 1 card at a time. So this is a very efficient overall. Swinging 7 into 6. And then this turn, I feel like we can probably use our leader ability to gain that 1 Rested Dawn so that we're able to swing another 6 with the pudding. And also play down the Ben Beckman. Even though we don't have a target for the Ben Beckman, it's okay because just getting another body on the field that swings a flat 7 is always very threatening against Nami overall. We could be punished by playing that down if they are playing something this turn that we want to get off the field, but yet again, we do have the Kamazo overall. Yeah, the Boodle here, we would have liked to be able to trash that, but I think it's fine. I think being able to KO it with a swing is just as good. We also have Punk Rotten and the Killer combo here. We can also rest the Usohachi, or rest the Boodle with the Usohachi, but it's fine. We'll just go ahead and KO it with the Kamazo. Swing 7. See if they take this. They give us a Rubber Band of Doom, and they just take it. Okay, I feel like this is probably game for them because they don't have a lot of open Dawn. They have 4 Dawn left, and we have a huge leader swing coming through, which is going to be very unfortunate for them. They're at 2 Dawn open, so once again, very unfortunate that we can just swing 6 and then ask for an event. Yeah, this would have been very unfortunate because they would have just had to counter out of a, looks like a 14 with our lead, and then we would have played out the killer, restand our leader, and then swing 16 again, and they just didn't have it. We pressured them, I think, the right amount here. All right, Blackbeard. This is definitely a great matchup for us because we want to play aggressive against most decks, and so Blackbeard is a deck that you want to play aggressive against, and going first is very strong for us. We do have the Captain Kids, which is great because we can, at least on 5, start ramping up a little bit faster. Of course, getting a pudding down would have been amazing as well, but you can't ask for or get everything you want, rather. The Luffy coming down is rather annoying, but we do have a killer ready to go against the Lafitte, but they have a dot Q of their own this next turn. It is unfortunate. Let's just swing 7 into lead. The killer is definitely going to go, but here is a matchup that I think that you kind of just want to ignore the Lafitte. I'm going to be honest. Like, I feel like in this matchup with Red Purple Kid, I really don't care about the Lafitte. In most matchups, I will swing into it. I will swing into it if it's the Dofi matchup. I'll swing into it if it's the Shanks matchup. But I feel like Red Purple Kid just kind of wants to go face and just pressure this Teach as much as possible. Because the hand size that they might be accruing with the Lafitte effect is going to be nullified by the amount of attacks or the power of the attacks coming at their way. So that's at least in my head what I feel like is the right choice to do here. Here they might play out something to get rid of our kid, our 5-cost kid. Teach is definitely good at answering like 1 body a turn. Here they get the Black Hole, but our kid is a 5-cost. Black Hole only answers a 4-cost. They have to have like a Stronger, which is a 2-cost, or sorry, a 1-cost event. No, it's not even an event. It's a 1-cost 2K counter that I believe when they trash it, they get to draw a card and then give something -2. And if they were able to pair that, yeah, speak of the devil, Stronger. They will be able to trash it, give our kid -2, which will put it in range of the Liberation or Black Hole, and then KO our kid. Unfortunate. It is what it is. We're going to take this hit because it will Eustace, will put them at a 5,000 power leader, so we'll be able to swing 7 flat with our leader ability. The 7-cost, it doesn't get the on-play effect, but it will get the when attacking this next turn, which is very nice for us. This is also a very hard card for Teach to answer with their current board state. They would have to, yeah, they don't have enough here. I don't think the Stronger and the Van Augur are going to get it close enough unless they have one more Stronger. I think that they might have thought that they could have gotten it down to 1, which would have been good for the Doc Q. Maybe they search out one more Stronger, but that might have been a little bit of a misplay there. Who knows? Maybe they're just like using this as bait. Hey, swing into my Van Augur, which I'm not going to do. I'm not going to take that bait. This next turn we'll be actually able to probably push for lethal. We can definitely play down this dragon. The dragon ability probably won't get the on-play ability here. It seems like they want to use their leader ability to turn on or turn off our on-plays, which means that we can still swing in with a rush unit though. So we'll be able to swing in with 7 with our leader ability, or yeah, leader ability minus Dawn plus 2,000. So swing 7 there, 8 with the 7-cost kid, and then 9 with the dragon. Yeah, this is really good for us. I feel very confident going into this next turn that we'll be able to at least get them to 0 very easily, maybe even win the game here. So let's go ahead and swing 7. If they can't counter out of this one, it's going to be very difficult. Ooh. Yeah, yikes. That's not good for them. Yeah, I think they realized that they had no counter in hand at that point. Ooh, that's rough. That's really good, though. We definitely, like I said, just ignore the Lafitte and go face in this matchup because, yeah, that's crazy there. We did have the Rogers as a last life in case they did get us down to 0. We did have that as an option as well. So, yeah, good matchup for us if we play aggressive. All right, Black Purple Luffy. I think this hand's okay because we have the killer here. We have some decent late game pieces, but Black Purple Luffy's a matchup that I'm not too sure on. Wow, we are whiffing that because they had 4 killer in the top 5. That's rather unfortunate, but we do not get punished with the pudding draw, which is great to see. We needed something there after that awful search. So for me, I feel like this matchup might not be the worst for us because they are at 4 life and we are trying to play very aggressive against them. And so they don't really have too many options to be able to answer a lot of our stuff. I speak too soon. They played top knot and they bottom deck our pudding, so that means we're not able to get that free value. Because they did that, I feel like I just need to swing maybe like 5 with my lead, and then 6 with this killer. At least buy us a turn. Then I'll be able to play my 7-cost Eustace Captain Kidd. They gave us a 2k on a 5k swing, so they just take the 6. Very interesting. The thing with Black Purple Luffy is you get them down to like 1, and then they start having like these insane plays where they play Moria and they play out their Frankie blocker, and then they have like 1 Dawn open for Gum Gum Giant, and then they just have like infinite counter, it seems. So we have to make sure that we pressure them hard enough to get to a spot in the game where that doesn't happen. I'm not going to use my leader ability here because I don't want to minus too much Dawn in the single turn. I want to be able to play my dragon this next turn, and if I use my leader ability on top of the 7-cost Kid ability, we're not going to be able to play out dragon the next turn. Oh my god. They play Shirahoshi, and they're probably going to top knot to get rid of the 7-cost. Yeah, this is a really good version of Purple Black Luffy, being able to have like that control aspect. Very nice here. Okay, I guess we'll just take the 6 from the second Zoro. I was hoping that they would leave that 1 up to kind of like front that they had Gum Gum Giant, but they just wanted to at least pressure me more, which is fine. Go 7 at face, 9 at face. They'll definitely take this one if they have to block the 7. And that puts us in a pretty good spot, actually, because we have a couple of options this next turn. I would imagine this next turn for them is going to be a Moria turn because they're at, I think, 9. And so if they play Moria out, they're probably going to play out a Frankie blocker to be able to draw, filter their hand a little bit more. I feel like the following turn, we might be able to play the Shanks out pretty comfortably. We have a lot of counter in hand, and I don't know if another dragon necessarily is too threatening for them. The Shanks is good because it's a nice defensive unit as well, minusing 1,000 to all of their bodies, so that the Zoro can't swing just for free. They have to put Dawn on it at least, which is very nice. So yeah, it is a Moria play. That's fine. We expected that. They swing 5. We will counter, and I think I might counter out of this one too. I don't want to go down to 1 against Black Purple Luffy because sometimes they have the 10 cost ready to go when you're at 1. And that's always a scary spot to be in. We'll go ahead and swing 9, see what they do here. I imagine this will be a block. Yeah, that's fine. We'll go and swing 7 with our leader. We wanted to play the Shanks down so that we could get full value with our leader ability here. Here's probably an easy Gum Gum Giant, as it seems that they might have that in hand. Otherwise, they might just give us a 2 and a 1, which is also a fine option for them. But I feel like the Gum Gum Giant's probably the better option overall. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows what the better option is? But regardless, they're probably not going to be able to counter out of this 12,000 power coming at them the next turn. And they don't really run any healers. They don't run like the Big Mom healers, so I'm not really worried about them healing back up. I feel like this puts them on a clock where they have to pressure us for game this next turn. And it's a little bit harder to do when they only have the Moria to swing with a unit. Frankie coming down is actually really good for us because we have an Usohachi to rest it, and they might want to throw down another blocker, and if they do, we have another Usohachi to rest it. Yeah. So this is why Usohachi's in the deck, folks. It's really strong against decks that like to block her up here. So we're going to go ahead and take this. Just hope that we don't go down too low. They don't swing with their Moria, which is fine. We're going to go and play out both Usohachis. We'll stack all the Dawn on the Shanks and swing 16. This will probably be very impossible for them to swing out of or counter out of. And if they do, they have to counter out of a 7 and a 9 as well. So overall, I don't see them getting out of this one. Yeah. Yikes. They did have the 10 cost ready to go, so we did have to pressure them that turn, or at least go for lethal. Otherwise, they might have had it on the crackback. I really enjoyed this leader, and I hope somebody out there also kind of like messes around and sees what they can do with this leader and kind of get the best of the deck list figured out. I think this is a pretty solid start, or at least a good foundation for where it can go. I really hope that I can practice more with this one and get a good combo. I want to be able to play the killer Punk Rotten and do it in a full fashion. Our Nami opponent didn't let us get there because they just didn't have the counter, but we had that combo ready to go. We had it a couple times as well. Yeah, Punk Rotten just too insane. The plus 5,000 power is absolutely just mind-boggling for a lot of people. Can't counter out of that one, plus the leader ability. It's just too good. But like I said at the beginning of the video, you can add other things in this deck as well. Kid and Killer from EBO1 is probably your best bet, so I would advise probably messing around with this list a little bit more and seeing what works, what doesn't. I feel like overall everything kind of synergizes to a certain extent. Your mid game is a little bit kind of awkward if you don't find your blockers or your puddings very early on, but yeah, I think that this is a pretty solid deck, and I think that there are some people that probably could mess around with it and do well in a bigger tournament. I don't know why people aren't playing this one enough. A dual color 5 life leader, to me, that one that can attack, is just so good. So my recommendation to you is, please, if you're like on the fence about playing a deck in OP09, maybe you're tired of what's in the meta, maybe you're wanting to play something that's a little bit more fun, something that goes burr, I feel like Eustace Captain Kidd, Red Purple Kid is just the best deck for you to at least pilot. Please, please, somebody out there, take this deck, do well with it, let me know how it goes. I really want to see this deck pop off. So anyway, I appreciate you guys watching as usual. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys in the next video.